Ihumai kahikimai malunamai onamai hunanmai onamai ehumai 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 kahikimai malunamai onamai eh.
So I like your hair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When I retired like 6 years ago, I decided I didn't need to put a blade to my face or my head.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I did this as a young man twice. But those times when I was fairly carefree, had no family responsibilities other than myself, and I could present what I felt was more my true face than a face for the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we first met each other, my hair, you know, I don't know if I still had it long, but at one point I'd cut it short because I was in sales, you know, and I just needed to deal with people so that they dislike me after I've opened my mouth rather than before. You know how this goes.
And you know, last time I had a beard when I was in India, I was 19 years old, 19 years old.
Fabulous. You know, it just grows, and so I organize it. And
yeah, exactly.
And my rationale, if someone looks at it, it says, you know, this is what my creator gave me. And who am I to deny my creator?
Exactly.
Now, the other interesting thing was, I don't know if you ever came across it in the readings, but at one point, the U.S. Army was looking into the super tracker Native Americans. These guys who could track you across solid rock, who, when they made camp, if you were going to attack them that night, somehow they knew it. They got up, they broke camp, they disappeared. They were just the tops. And the Army tested these guys, and they did exactly what they were reputed to do. And they said, oh, great, we're going to have some of these guys in the force. So they brought them in and enlisted them in the Army and ran them through everything. They poked them in the arm, sat them down on a chair, zip, took all their hair, and they couldn't do it anymore.
Wow.
Couldn't do it anymore because
all the psychic energy was contained in the hair, right?
Well, the hair is also an extension of the nervous system.
Yeah, wow.
If you talk with an osteopath, you'll get that understanding, or someone else, but this is an extension of what's going on.
Yeah, wow.
And so it's like your antenna, right?
Yeah.
And if you shut down your antenna, you can't pick up the signal.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the things around the bullet head look nowadays. Let's take off all the hair. So we're just inside our own heads, and we don't have to pay attention to the stories of other people around us.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. Yeah. So, I learn something new every day. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh.
So there you have it. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it.
I'm wondering, you know, that's why in India too, you know, I like the sadhus. They don't cut their hair. They don't cut their beard. They don't. You know, a lot of them don't even do anything with their fingernails.
With fingernails. That's a little too much because this is.
Yeah, that's kind of.
We have to be practical. My sense of spirituality, medicine work, shamanism, if that's what you want to call it, is that it's all balanced. You know, we're here in body, so we need to take care of all of these things, and none before the other. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's exactly, we're all trying to get ahead of ourselves. That's the problem.
It's kind of like, you know, I remember in the Kabbalah, you know, I heard the definition of idiot comes from idiota, which means feet on the ground and head in heaven.
That could be, it comes from the Latin, and it means self, like an idiopathic disease, or idiosyncrasy. You know, like whenever I come to words, I'm tempted, and I don't know if you ever do this, but the dictionary is a great place to begin contemplation, because we're working with these operating systems that are built out of languages. And I love the old German words, the short ones. We get them right away, and they're very practical and pragmatic. But the Latin-derived ones are big and constructive, and they have a lot more resonance in them, in that we're always talking both literally and metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
And so this is, anyway, my perk.
Well, I'm on the same wavelength with you because in the last probably 4 or 5 years, I write poems I write every day.
Yes.
And I probably have a collection, maybe about 75 words, where I go to the Webster's Dictionary, write it down. And then I'm being amazed about how powerful the dictionary definition is. And yet we use those words and we don't really think, what we're saying now, how powerful a word is.
Yeah, every word is spell, and at the same time, the language has degenerated. So today, 20-somethings think that the word decimate means the same as devastate, but they don't understand decimals. If they did, they'd understand it was 1/10. And if they looked up where that came from, it was in the old Roman legions. When the legions got unruly, they lined them up, and every 10th man they pulled out, and they executed it. And that was decimation.
Yeah.
And then they say, okay, the rest of you guys, do we have a deal?
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd say no, and they do another decimation. And I remember reading about, there was one group that one army corps that had declined to declare, I think it was declining to declare the emperor as God. The same thing that got the Christians into the arenas, right? Because they just wouldn't say, okay, yes, Caesar is God. And everyone else did and said, sure, you want me to say Caesar is God? Cool, we'll say Caesar is God. Well, so they ended up killing everybody. and it just goes to show you again how, as a species, we're so much stuck in our stories. We care more about the ideas we have about people than we care about people themselves.
Yeah, lately I wrote a book on nonviolence. And so I started to do research with the Jains. You know who the Jains are?
Yes.
That's how Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King got their whole concept, peaceful activism was through nonviolence.
But Gandhi himself said it was only a tactic. It was not a principle. And Gandhi himself bemoaned that the populace was disarmed, and that he figured this campaign would work because of the press coverage and the political pressure it would generate. And he did see that correctly. In historic ancient times in northern India, when the Mongols began to invade southward from the north, the Buddhists in the north offered no resistance. And the Mongols slaughtered the men, women, child. I think they probably did like Old Testament stuff and took care of all the animals too.
Yeah.
And the Buddhists put their heads together, and guess what they decided to do? They decided they needed to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So it's nonviolence, but it's also boundaries, right?
Yeah. Well, that's even what the Jains philosophy is. We will never attack you, but if you attack us, good luck.
Good. Well, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, please tell me some more about the Jains. You were getting.
Well, what I was saying that about the Jains. Imagine, so their last teacher in the book was a guy named Mahavir. So imagine this was 2500 BC.
Right.
And before that, then they had a succession of 26 teachers. So that imagine if someone lived 60, 80 years.
Right.
You're going back another, like what 1,200 years at least, maybe 1,500 years. So, and I kind of like, the more I look at it, I kind of like it in terms of they don't have any hierarchy. In terms, most religions, they have a hierarchy,
Right. Okay.
they want to control the power, they want to control the masses.
Fabulous. The problem with organizations is they're organizations.
Exactly. They believe in in capitalism per se, but in capitalism, it has to be in tune with the environment. You don't
Yes.
want to have capitalism so someone can immense $1 billion and in the meantime rape the planet. So
Mhm.
they're really into being aware of whatever action they do, it doesn't hurt anyone or anything. So
Right. And they leave it in as good condition or better than they found it.
exactly. Yeah. So most Aborigines and indigenous cultures are like that. But
Yes.
here, this is a culture that's highly refined in terms of the arts, humanities, science. So
Right.
they
Shelter,
really believe it, and the feet on the ground. And
good.
also at the same time.
Yes, I'm all for that. That sounds beautiful because it's so much. I was thinking of the Hopi prophecy that came by again recently, and the discussion of the story being that the natives live as one heart people, and we of a European tradition have learned a two heart tradition, so that we don't connect with nature as alive and part of us in all our relations, but we walk into a forest and we see board feet of lumber.
Right. Uh,
That's
our current administration sees that.
well, no, it's actually the continuation of the whole monetization of our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's an interesting thing because it goes back to the Roman state and before that to the Etruscans, as far as I can trace it. And then I'm sure it's lost in the mists of time, but there's something out there.
But don't you think, I kind of look at humanity, if they're not connected inside with nature and with their true selves, chaos will exist. I don't care what kind of organization or government you have.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm totally in agreement with you because for most of us, as I'm doing this thing, it's not who we are, it's just an ego construction. It's what we are because we're the actor that's creating all of these presentations in various guises to do different things. So there's Tom the father, there's Tom the salesperson, there's whatever. But that's not who we are, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And my theory is that's one reason why we're having this shutdown. Granted, Mother Nature, just think, this is the first time we've ever seen a global pandemic shutdown. We've never seen that before during our lives. That maybe it has happened before.
Yeah.
But then again, you look at America, and look at Canada. You guys are doing a great job, of handling, the virus versus right now.
Yeah, but at the cost of society at the same time. And it's not, it's a serious virus. It obviously came out of a bioweapons lab. If you go into the technical literature, and it demonstrates because just on analysis of the, there goes my brain again there. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Basically, it's that disruptions occur within the genetic sequence of an organism randomly across the board.
Yeah.
And they're finding all of the genetic changes are in a narrow band. So that gives you like a probability of 1 in 10 to the -4 or 5, 6, whatever order of magnitude. And on that as circumstantial evidence, you go, well, there's no way this is happening in Mother Nature. So when you read stuff that says, okay, this was a zoonotic, there was a cross species and all this stuff, right then and there you can stop reading.
Yeah.
Because you're not dealing with it. It's got lingering effects for a lot of folks. It's like, imagine that we're all walking on ground and then we're going into a lake and the water's getting higher and higher and we can't swim. Right? So it's getting up to our nose and all of a sudden some guy puts it up another foot, right? Some of us are going to drown. We can't handle it. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And that's what it's all for all us pesky pensioners. You see, there's a whole bunch of bucks in the banks they're supposed to pay out to us. And this way we're going to get rid of us and create a whole panic at the same time. And it's just, disgusting to see the way the fear has been spread into the population and the psychic trauma that it induces.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I go out and have a chance to talk with people during the day, I'm always trying to spark somebody. I'm trying to get them to laugh. I'm trying to get them to have fun, find some fun, because for all of us, trouble just finds us.
Uh-huh.
We don't have to go looking for it, but we do have to go looking for fun. And in a way that we're creators, not consumers of fun.
Right. It's exactly. Creators, you know.
Most of us are consumers of fun.
Mhm.
And we've been raised to be that way. So I learned how to juggle. And you pull out 3 balls and start juggling, you'd be amazed. It just breaks people's preoccupation over the worry about wherever they're going, what's going on. It's just like, wow, what's happening, man? And we have a chance to come back to the present moment, because my mind, and I'm saying anybody else, is constantly taking me away from the here and now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've got to go, please. I've been talking too long.
Oh, no, yeah. No, it's good. Yeah. Well, that's why I love writing, you know, and meditating together. So you know, I meditate in the morning, then afterwards I write, you know, and there, you know, we can, you know, go to the essence that lies within, and it's an infinite well, isn't it? You know, I never get writer's block, because when you're in that ocean,
well, there's no writer's block because it's not you.
Exactly.
You know, it's like I sing, and when I get up to perform and sing, I'm trying to get out of the way and let the song come through.
Yeah. Oh.
And when I do that, it's no problem. But if I don't think, what do people think about me? You know, like, no, how do I feel and how am I broadcasting? That's my thing. Like when we began today, you said, let's meditate. I go, yeah, let's do that. And then I start doing a little chanting, because I'm not just meditating. I'm praying. I'm setting a positive intention. I'm not just going, okay, what's the weather like today? Bright, sunny. Hey, that's nice. Oh, no, it's overcast and rainy. Everything's down. Well, that's good to know for the weather report everybody's dealing with. Well, I don't want that one for mine. Right?
Yeah,
we got a choice, right? I hope so. That's the idea. So,
so I got a question for you. How did you get involved with the whole Hawaiian, like shamanism with the Lomi Lomi? I'm kind of, because to be honest, that Lomi Lomi, I've had plenty of massages during my time, but that was the most spiritual, you know, connection for a massage that I ever had.
Well, it's more than massage. It's energy work. It's prayer.
Yeah.
And it's sacred. And we begin by letting you know that you're sacred. So that's been part of my own journey of self-realization. And I think, you know, I grew up middle class U.S. outside of Detroit, in one of the suburbs that was the richest in the United States, an area. It dealt with the automotive aftermarket. You know, the automobile industry was booming. And between Detroit and Pontiac was a big 4 lanes each way highway called Woodward Avenue. People went woodwarding. And it just seemed all so plastic to me. And I wanted to get out into the natural world. And I was in a corner, parents built a house in a corner lot of an old apple orchard. And there was a woodlot getting turned into houses on one side and a farm going out of production. And I got out of the house and I wasn't stuck in that suburban greensward where it's all planted and people in houses. And then I had summer camp experiences. I was athletic. I pursued both a mental and a physical life, which I didn't find echoed in my compatriots around me. The jocks were jocks and they didn't have much going on up here. And the guys that had stuff going on up here weren't in their bodies. They weren't in the present here and now.
Right. Yeah.
That being what it may, I got to university and looked around for something I could do. And it wasn't real practical. You know, I could have gone into engineering and come up with a real practical job. But no, I was interested in learning as much as I could about everything that I could. And I ended up in doing it in a departmental major in anthropology and zoology.
Oh, wow, okay.
I've been fascinated by the human condition. How do we organize ourselves? How do societies develop over time? What happens? Can they Do they always fade? Do they always blow up? Do they always self-destruct? Or no, there are some that actually go through a revitalization and reinvent themselves. And so I'm looking at all this big picture stuff. You know, it's not real practical, but it's certainly soul satisfying.
Yeah, exactly.
And Castaneda's stuff came out, whether it's true or not, you know, just look at it as allegory. It's a story, right? So we don't have to just take it on its merits as a story rather than assert it true or false. And I guess the bohemian part of me came in and I wanted to go native.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward many years later through a lot of experience in the commercial world and a couple of marriages, I'm connecting with Lonnie. And I've always been interested because when I was looking around for an explanation, doing my early reading, I read Idris Shah and about the Sufis, and I read, you know, all the stuff I could look at. You know, Kabbalah came across me, and I go, I need to forget this stuff. And you know, I'd never find much on the Polynesian magical tradition. And even if you look at some of the survey books, go to the back and look, and you'll see they pretty much skip it over. And yet, it was, from my estimation, the most effective and practical application, because it just spanned the whole spectrum of our human needs. Anyway,
you know, the whole arena of forgiveness. I think that's a huge, you know,
absolutely,
the whole world, right? Yeah.
It's, you know, it's like Ho'oponopono. We can compare to the Christian concept of redemption, right? That we're not stuck with our sins forever.
Yeah.
And we're not going to atone for them through some unpleasant punishment, you know, that we can't be self-correcting.
Right. As you talked about yesterday, recalibration, right?
Right, recalibration. So, you know, when you look at you talk about forgiveness here in the Hawaiian stuff, the problem they had was they're on these small islands out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There's, in the old days, in the old societies, what was the ultimate punishment? It wasn't killing someone. They didn't want to do that. They just banished them. Get out of here. You can't come back. If you do show up, no cultural norms extend to you, and your enemies can kill you freely. And if you're stuck off on your own, you usually don't survive.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, or fast forward in the Middle Ages, people got banished for a period of years. Oh, okay, if you can come back after 5 years. So it's like a prison term, only it was open air and you had to serve it someplace else. Anyway, I'm doing some literature. I'm reading the Buddhism stuff and Acosta Janes and Blavatsky, and of course, Aleister Crowley shows up because that's pop cult, and then rockers are into that crap. But then I come across a book by Maxwell Freedom Long called The Secret Science Behind Miracles. Now, Max Long himself was not a kahuna, he was not a Hawaiian, but he did a great deal of research work in delving into the Hawaiian language and looking at parsing out the parts of speech, because it's multiply layered and contains a lot of metaphor, so that a teacher could teach openly to his pupils. They knew what the hidden deeper meaning was, and everyone else would just hear him talking like nonsense, like our older brother Yeshua spoke to us in parables, right? So the people could get out of it what they could get out of it.
Yeah.
And now only moderns are so stupid to take literally what was written figuratively. Anyway, back to the Hawaiian stuff. It resonated with me because it was gracious, because it was based in love, because even the idea of the Hawaiian medicine tradition is not like American Indian or other stuff where it's the warrior tradition, you know, and we're going to personalize those opposing energies and we're going to beat them into submission and we're going to stand out on top. And no, the way of the adventure is like, wow, what's going on here, man? How do I depersonalize this, make this about energy? And then is there a way we can move with it so we achieve maximum effect, minimum effort, and kind of like a keto, move on towards what we wish to accomplish, not just getting in a battle for
probably the closest, I would say, to the Tao, aren't they? You know.
Yes.
That's probably, you know, the Pacific way of the Tao. That's That's probably a good way of looking at it. Huh?
Well, yeah, I have to agree from what I read of the Tao.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, I love the Tao, and it's amazing because the Tao that can be spoken indeed is not the true Tao, but it is the Tao that you can take to the bank.
Yes.
And a lot of people have done that.
Right. That's a good one.
You see, and this is, right, thanks for laughing, because we need more humor in our lives. And it's up for us to look for it, and go like, yeah, aren't you scratching your head too?
Uh-huh.
I'm scratching my head. Okay. So back to how I got into the Hawaiian stuff. I was out of my second marriage and on my chaotic journey, figuring out who I was again. But that's just, what was my latest iteration? What's my latest presentation? We grow through stages. In a lot of Native cultures, you get a different name. You're a baby, you're a child, you're a man, you're an elder, or you're a woman,
Yeah.
You get a different name, right? Because you're in a different stage, you're in a different place. Anyway, so I met up with Alani, and we were both, she was coming out of her marriage, and we both realized that if we didn't do any of our own work, what we do would just find another character to fill the same role we already had going.
Right.
Faces would change, but the roles would remain the same. So we worked with a organization called the Human Awareness Institute, called HAI, H-A-I. And that was started by Stan Dale. There's a whole story about it. Basically, it's about the power of love, and it provides people with an objective set of rules or guidelines. I'm going to say guidelines for our behavior. So it was great. So here was something we could both refer to, not you, not me. This is something we both agree on. And of course, we got together because we were dealing with ownership issues. And I didn't want anyone to feel they owned me, and she didn't want anyone to feel she owned her. Even if we belong together, I don't own you.
Right.
Anyway, so at one point, she knew I was interested in the Hawaiian stuff. She looked at my bookshelf and immediately decided I was worth looking at a little bit deeper, because I had half the books that she had and the other half was stuff she wanted to read. So she says to me, recently divorced woman with a lot of money, Tom, I've got this 1 week Lomi Lomi training coming up outside Toronto in Orangeville at a retreat center. 10 days. We got the time. I got the money. I'll pay your way. The magic words.
Yeah.
I'll pay your way. And so we went, and there we engaged with the moving meditation you've seen us do. That was the first 4 days of our of our experience there. 4 times a day, 2 hours each time in temple, and but to anchor into the body knowing the movement that generates the energy and brings it down, and then then we can distribute that. So anyway, this was like, it was real magic to me, and it was love, it was acceptance, it was a way to release and de-armor. And or not that I'm totally de-armored, but just say like begin the process and the awareness. And I loved it. It just really called to me. And I had been in medical school at one time, and I walked away from that. And in years before, when I was graduating from university and not sure what I would do, I'd gone to see a local well-respected astrologer, looked at my chart, we talked a bit, and he said to me the most curious thing. He said, have you ever considered healing with your hands?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. And of course, my background modest program kicked in, and the voice showed up and said, well, who am I to do that? And unfortunately, that had more sway in those days. But later on, after that little voice came and said, who am I to do that? There was a calmer voice that said, who are you not to do that?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
if you're, if you're not putting your reputation on the line, so we're also, I remember being so concerned when I was younger about how did I look? I had that kind of like a psychic mirror out here. It was like that rear view mirror, only it was looking back at me, and I'm always, how do I look, man? How am I doing? You know, and I walked past a storefront that had glass windows, and I looked, wow, how's my reflection? You know, like, and that was the misdirection, you know, because I really, in retrospect, if I had gone like, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
That's it. Because when I look at people and the real beautiful people in me that I meet are the ones that are feeling good and they're radiating that. And the most tragic ones are the ones who have all the classic features, but they're dead inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
they feel so shut down, like they're dead inside. So
In our society, that's what they teach, don't they? Everything's external. You know, everything you chase is.
we're all urged to sell ourselves out, I
Yeah.
think is what happens. And we forget we have, and then everything becomes consumptive, you know, that money's going to buy us happiness, buy me a trophy wife, or it's all monetized now, and we can't even imagine life without money. And yet natives got along without our form of currency for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But they still had money. You know, wampum belt, for example, represented countless hours of labor, right? You know, so that was of high esteem. You know, as long as everybody has value for everybody, it's money, right?
Right.
But
right.
reach in your pocket and pull out that you still have dollar bills there, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only $1 because everybody says it's worth something, but it's a piece of paper with some ink on it.
Right.
Right.
Well,
There's a Canadian $2 coin. It's got a coin inside a coin. It's a nice, interesting thing. And I pull it out and I go to say, what's this? And they go, oh, that's a toonie. The worst one's called a loony because there's a loon on it.
oh,
And I go, yeah, that's a toonie. It says, looks like a disc of metal inside a disc of metal to me.
mhm.
With some writing on it.
Yeah.
So the point is, how do we step? And that's from stepping outside the story. When I'm inside the story, it's a toonie, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah.
But stepping outside the story and look at it objectively and say, you know, outside of our mutual expectations, what do I see?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't ask ourselves those questions because we're engaged in the game.
Yeah, that's what, you know, I say, you know, see, I grew up somewhat of a similar situation. I grew up in Newport Beach in California, which is
I've been in Newport Beach. The magazine, my sister magazine was headquartered in there, and I went to the Commodore's Club. Whoa, man, this place was way expensive for me. I tell you, yeah, the hamburger was $10, and this was like 1982. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a beautiful place, though. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, you know. But to be honest, I had the same feelings that you did. You know, for me, I never gravitated towards riches. You know, but because you know, for me, that even in Newport Beach, all my friends were looking externally and trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
And that you had certain cliques that you belonged to, and that's what you belong to. And
right.
I was a surfer, but also at the same time, I was really involved with meditation and knowing myself. So
you're the local hippie.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't mind, I can joke with you, right?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
All right.
I was, but
I'm a local hippie.
My body is so sensitive that I couldn't use drugs. I couldn't even have alcohol.
I understand it.
Yeah. So, you know, so here, you know, like on a Friday night when I was in high school, all my friends, my surfer friends would go to parties, you know, and,
right.
you know, and you know, smoke and, you know, get drunk. And for me, I went to bed every night at 8 o'clock because I woke up early in the morning. I meditated. I did my yoga exercises. And then I got water. Yeah. Exactly. So for me, even back then, I believed in preventative medicine. You know, that I believe that this is the only temple that you get. You might as well take care of it.
I think anything more than that, you know, it's not like you were giving up something. You found more joy in what you were doing than the alternative. You know, at some point, you tried it. We all tried it, and you go like, well, you know, that was nice. That was okay, but I don't want to do it again. It's taking me a while to get back to what I consider normal, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
fall away. You stop drinking, your drinking friends go away. Okay.
Yeah. But it's kind of amazing now. A lot of my friends, they're still in the same, journey.
Right.
But when I put stuff on Facebook, now people are actually, writing back and saying, well, you got a real, beautiful and different, perspective on life. So every day I put something different. I'm right now I'm doing the whole journey.
Yeah, you're going through the Delta chain.
Yeah, so I'm doing the Tao Te Ching, and I'm doing the entire book. So all my high school friends, are kind of messaging me, hey, this is pretty, it's different. It's and even friends. I have friends who are solid Trump fans. I mean, just to the T. But they're the ones, who I'm not offending anyone. I'm telling them my story, my journey, and they absolutely love it. So
that's where you're going to have influence. If you want to persuade someone differently, you can't attack them head on. That's antagonistic. You got to get alongside them. You got to discover common ground.
Yeah.
And with that common ground, then we create a bit of camaraderie, and there's some. I forget the Frenchy first word, but we have a way to proceed.
What's the last word? I didn't get that.
Oh, we have a way to proceed.
Oh, proceed. Right.
Because most of the stuff I've seen on Facebook is somebody's meme going this or that, and they're all preaching to the choir, and they're not making it to the pews. If you catch my meaning. So my thought is, whenever I weigh in, I want to just use 2 or 3 sentences. Sometimes it's questioning, sometimes it's positive, but all I'm thinking about is, what can I say that someone might take away with them, rather than some big long screed. I've got friends that get going, your stuff is nice, but other guys are like, after a while, I'm like, come on, say something that I will take to heart.
Yeah, I try to write for the common denominator. Basically, we're all the same force. We're all, as you said yesterday, we all have the same potential inside of us. Everyone, the universe is kind. That's our true nature. But
yes,
the way it is right now, we are flaming each other. With especially in the United States, there's a left wing and the right wing.
That's all being manipulated to left and right. We can't look. These guys don't tell us what's in our food. Why would we expect them to tell us what's in our news? Taking it at face value. That's the point of departure. That's not the end of the road for me.
Yeah.
Okay, what are they saying between the lines? We can read that stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just going negative here.
But what I've been doing a lot of reading, and over the years, they said, it takes over a million years for a society to reach a point where they can discover the jewel within. Over a million years. So basically, it's a lot of recalibrations, a lot of shifts, a lot of learning. This isn't the first time, this planet isn't the only planet who's gone through that.
That's true, but if you look at combining our metaphysics with true history and true physics and science, you can see that humanity is living in a post-traumatic incidents, going back to the cataclysmic change at the end of the last ice age, and the huge interplanetary electric discharges that scarred the face of this earth. And if you can't see it here, just look at the face of Mars and see that big cross. And there's no other way to explain it. It's the best one. And that's why I keep pumping in Thunderbolt stuff, like saying, hey, if your paycheck didn't depend on believing this story, would you take a look at this other one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my paycheck doesn't depend upon it, but a lot of people, it's like if your ego doesn't depend upon it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess what do we say? I'm the everlasting optimist. You know, I really think that humanity could change. Granted, it's going to take a long time. We got a long ways to go. But don't you think about dreams? Whatever dream we have ultimately can happen. I firmly believe, especially in going back to Carl Jung, the collected unconsciousness. You know, the inside humanity, that seed exists. Granted, it's going to take a long time for that seed to grow, but that's kind of like my viewpoint on the future. You know,
Well,
it might take 1,000,000 years.
million years, okay. My understanding is that we continue to evolve, after we lay down our robe of flesh and end this earth walk.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
My understanding is, though, that it's more difficult when we're not in a body because our body creates mana.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawaiians, and the mana is used to form to make ideas. And if we want to change our ideas, we need enough mana to overcome our preconceptions. And when you're discarnate, you don't have that, so it takes longer. If you've ever read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross,
Oh, yeah.
in the 70s, summer work on death and dying.
Yeah.
She wrote a couple of follow-up books. This is either the second or third one that was more personal and anecdotal. She wrote it from a personal basis. The first one, she had to be very clinical because to take this into the scientific community was new for the culture at that time.
Especially that was the late 60s, early 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that stuff. Like I was in medical school at the time doing gross anatomy, and everybody's death fears came up when you had a pickled body in front of you. Anyway, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote this other book, and she's relating incidents she had that I'm sure you and I can relate to because she's getting visitations from former clients who have passed on. And she gets this one visitation from a lady who had been a professor at a college. She'd been a professor of anthropology. And this lady also did field work. So as Dr. Ross is talking with this lady, she's saying how that she kind of got curious about where she was because it looked like what she'd expected. And then she decided she'd go look for the people out in Borneo that she'd done her field work with. The headhunters out there. So no much as she expressed the thought, and boom, she finds them, and there they are. And they're hanging out in a situation that looks just like where they left, with the jungle and the huts and stuff. They're not doing any headhunting, they're just kind of laying around. But they're stuck there. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that if we put constraints on our conception of reality, we're making our own boxes that are going to be hard to, how do we be, how can you get out of a wet paper bag? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But, the way I look at it, it's like, I've been meditating for almost 49 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
And for me, meditation brings you to a place, as you know, that's beyond time and space. You tap into the quantum field. So I kind of believe that a person can be you could be the entire universe and still be walking around in a human body. That's, our human body is wired for that experience.
Well, I think, the funhouse we used to visit said that it was an infinite spirit coming into a finite body and creating as an intermediary the soul.
Yeah.
And we've heard the expression, be careful for your mortal soul, right? Oh, it can die. Faustian bargain implies that aspect too. And the funhouse we were at also said that soul lives a long time and eventually remerges with the spirit. I don't know. I haven't been there, but it's a working story. I'll go with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And
I've had that belief from day one. You know,
okay.
even before I learned how to meditate. You know, I see. I have a twin brother. We knew we never came from this planet.
Wow.
From
I have a totally unrelated question, but it does relate to PTSD of our generation. So bluntly, were you circumcised? Were you tortured shortly after birth?
that. I don't. I'm not sure. That's a good
You
question.
have an intact foreskin.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then you were not strapped down and forcibly cut.
Mhm.
That makes a big difference. It creates, it shows up in the scans that they can do now,
Mhm.
and I think that has a lot to do with the situation of men in the world too.
Yeah, my brother and I, we always knew we came from the stars. I remember like we were 3 years old, and my uncle, took us to Bob's Big Boy, and they had this mask, a placemat, and it said, "A Martian, take me to your leader." So my
I
brother and I would pick up that mask, and we would laugh and laugh because we knew, we came from the stars. But here was our uncle, who had no idea why we were laughing, and we were also laughing because, John, this is the inside joke between us.
but
But
they're supporting you.
exactly.
They're supporting you in your exploration. In my house, they probably was, what's that nonsense?
Yeah. Well, like even I don't know if I ever told you, but I grew up in the house of the future. Imagine 1954. You could walk into our parents' house, clap your hands. We had a light and the lights were turned on. We had the key with 1,000 different combinations on. You put the wrong key in, we'll call the police. We had sensors on the windows, so when it would rain and the wind speed was greater than 15 miles per hour, all the windows would close. We had the very first video cameras. My brother and I would be playing. Mind you, this is 1954.
Wow.
We had cameras in the backyard, so my mom would be making dinner and she'd be watching us on TV. We had a stove with induction energy, so you put a pan on and
Yeah, like the flat induction plates you buy today, right? Okay.
Yeah. And and about 15 years ago, I saw a Burger King commercial, and there was my mom, and then the commercial said, "This is the old style way of cooking a hamburger." So it showed my mom, with the induction stove with the pan floating. This is how the old style of cooking hamburgers.
Fabulous. That's great.
So for me, even to be born in that family is, just kind of, I'm kind of much like you, future,
I had to break away. I was the first of 5 kids, 4 boys and a girl over a span of 8 years. So that's an intense crop of kids to move through a family. And firstborn, Tom Jr., Tom Sr. had been All-American football player at University of Michigan, and my mother was a Mensa. Okay. So the program was for me to perform on the athletic field and in the academic classroom, go to the University of Michigan. And I did. I went to the University of Michigan, and I walked down to the football program, and I was the punter for the freshman team, and I realized, I've done enough.
You paid your dues, right?
I'd recreated that.
Yeah.
Banged up knee, and there were times I couldn't get my teeth together for a week because my jaw was knocked sideways. It was just getting beat up, and it wasn't worth it. But it was all part of fulfilling the program that was laid before me, and then at some point going, this is not making it.
Yeah.
The ultimate of that was getting into medical school, and then deciding that this was not going to make it.
Yeah.
And walking away from that.
Yeah, I reached that point in high school. All my friends, I graduated from high school, and all my friends were going to college. And what I did, I went to Europe. And I hitchhiked from France to India with my surfboard. I spent time in India, hitchhiked from Kenya to South Africa. For me, I always, traveling, especially going overseas, that was the best learning experience
Yeah,
that I had.
yeah. Mark Twain stuff about people traveling abroad. I remember reading that. It was always entertaining and educative, and right.
It's like
Please go ahead.
it's like when the Russians, attacked Afghanistan, in the 80s. First thing that came to my mind, good luck. You guys have no idea what you're getting into. Because ever since, Genghis Khan, people have tried to capture,
The CIA suckered them into it, and the Russians were winning that war until the U.S. introduced the shoulder-fired Stinger anti-aircraft missile. And all of a sudden, the Soviet air supremacy was gone. And the Afghans would stand up, and just dynamite those mountains down on the road. You can break up an armored column that way. It's the grave of empires, right? And what is it, 14 years now the U.S. is in there?
Oh, more like 18 years now.
More like 18 years, So short of killing all the natives, there's no way to secure that place. The only guy to do it was Alexander the Great. He succeeded for 2 years through an intricate series of intermarriages, and that was it. Only lasted 2 years and it blew up. So good luck to anybody who thinks they're going to do anything, turn it into a buffer state. And the one thing the Taliban did do was to cut the heroin trade out. And the poppy cultivation, and that's where the money is. So
yeah, the Afghanis were one of the most friendliest people on the face of the planet. But I learned even back then, you don't want to mess with them.
No, not at all. And a lot of those people, bless them, they still have that cultural trait of expecting to take in travelers and host them. And offer hospitality, and then you got to learn what's appropriate. I remember reading someplace like you're out in a yurt and somewhere in Mongolia, and he offers you yak butter tea. You accept the first, the second, and the third, and you decline the rest. So you accept his generosity, but you show that you're not going to lean on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just got to know what it is. You just got to know how the game gets played, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they're all signaling essentially what it's about. We can't just say, "Hey, man, we're okay." No, we got to do this stuff. Well, think about, like in ancient travelers. If you share food with somebody under your roof, they're not going to come steal. They're not going to come knife you in the middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they won't share food with you under your roof, out the door.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, unfortunately, today common sense is uncommon. Even in terms of diplomacy, especially in the United States. I don't. That's another subject we could talk about in years. So we won't talk about it.
Well, suffice it to say, you're living in the belly of the beast.
Exactly.
And it's combination 1984 and Brave New World. And we'll leave it at that. We're not going to solve this political problems at the political level. It's where. Are you familiar with much of Casey's writings?
Oh yeah, Casey. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I remember at one point hearing something, with Vladimir Putin and the revival of the Orthodox Church in Russia, and I'm thinking of the Casey writing where it says that Russia's going to come to the rescue of the world.
Wow.
I don't know if you've seen that, but
I think I heard that.
Or revisited that.
I think I heard that vaguely about 40 years ago. Yeah, but.
Well, I remember I was watching the news media and something came up and it clicked in my mind, and then I saw other commentary that also had made the same association. So it wasn't my madness alone.
Yeah. Wow. Well, interesting times. That's for sure.
But that's a Chinese curse, an ancient Chinese curse. And the full curse goes, may you be a person of great importance in interesting times.
Yeah.
Now, in ancient China, interesting times were when the barbarians breached the Great Wall. And they came across and they beheaded 800,000 people in a day. The slaughters of ancient times are amazing, surpassed by modern times, of course. But yeah, human history, like we have to be kind because otherwise we'd have eliminated ourselves by now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If there is a saving grace, must be somewhere, that says, stay the hand.
That's one profession I was thinking about in high school I ever got into, which I didn't, was history. Because I like history, but not the way it was presented, in school. It's, class, please turn to page 452 and read this passage, but I had teachers like in social problems. Well, actually, okay, we had this problem. We had this war. Let's talk it over. What did we learn from it? Or did we learn anything from it? So it's kind of like history is a series of lessons that we should learn. But unfortunately, we're not mature enough. The first thing, in our society with governments, especially in the United States, is that we fight first, and then we'll discuss later. Where it should be, we discuss, and then we should be intelligent enough to reach a common agreement.
I'm totally with you, but the intelligence and rationality only kicks in when we're in adult ego state and relatively serene.
Exactly.
Not elevated, not adrenalized, not angry, not depressed.
Yeah.
Right here in the middle, like the serenity, like the recovery community talks about. I spent 12 years going to AA meetings until I decided I wanted a different definition of myself. And I decided that AA was great, it was necessary, but it wasn't sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I kind of look at, you're into chemistry, the human body is directly affected with chemistry. So anytime a person gets angry, stress hormones gets released, the whole body gets agitated. Our society right now is so stressed out, they can't turn off the faucet of adrenaline. In that high beta state, you can't think properly.
It's
rationale is out the door.
It's an induced addiction, you see, because we could turn off the box and walk away from it. But it gets us one against the other, and those who would rule us are happy to see us fighting each other. And it's like, who's right and who's wrong, rather than how are we all in this together and what can we do? Or I'm thinking of what I understand the Taoists to say, okay, here we are. How can I use this situation to my advantage?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, oh, poor me, I'm here. Let's analyze how we got here. It's like, well, here we are. What do we do? How do you want to feel about it? Where do you want to go? And I have to agree. I don't know if you ever read anything to Scott Adams.
Scott Adams, yeah.
The Dilbert.
Scott Adams, okay, yeah.
Scott Adams, who's author of the Dilbert cartoon, but he's got a blog too, which is good and provocative reading. You might enjoy taking a little look at that from time to time.
Yeah. So basically the way I look at it for myself is that when anything external comes that kind of rattles me, I kind of stop, look, and listen, go inside. I see I have the opportunity, if I respond to it, then basically the subconscious takes over, adrenaline kicks over, that kicks in. You don't have any discrimination, no rationale, the ego kicks in. But if you're totally relaxed, and you're in that place of silence, just by waiting for 1 second and taking a look at that can, the situation won't change externally, but the inside reference, to the situation is a difference between night and day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm just thinking, though, that from the brain science I picked up, a lot of this fear stuff goes on deep in the brain, in the amygdala.
Yeah.
Like where people who have, ex-military guys with severe PTSD, and that you can kind of confuse it, but you can't overwrite it. And
well, a lot of
somehow all this fear and stuff, this is addictive to people.
But there's a lot of scientists. You ever heard of Joe Dispenza? I don't know if you ever heard of him. He gives seminars all around. He's a neurologist and a neuroscientist.
Okay.
he has seminars where he works with science and meditation, where they actually, and they have, and he works with the Heart Institute. Basically, what it did, that they now have scientific devices that they can monitor, how much chemicals it gets released, the positive and the negative chemicals. They can monitor what brain states a person is in, where, so if a person is in high beta,
Right.
gradually they can go down, to alpha, to theta, to delta, and then over time they learn how to control their own internal chemistry. So there's thousands of people, who come to his seminars, and so that he's using scientific data, and he's bringing in, scientists from all around. A lot of universities are really interested in this because he has such a huge database, because he has 1,000 people. Before this whole virus thing, he was doing like maybe 2 seminars a month with 1,000 people, and he's been doing it for over 10, 15 years. So he has a huge database. So,
Okay.
anyway, to make a long story short, many people are learning how to overcome, the obstacles, that they're learning how, there's a body-mind connection, how it's all interconnection. We don't learn that in schools, we're not.
No, school's about socialization.
Exactly.
The history you got, the didactic stuff sounded great. The rest of it is like boilerplate. You just have to know the party line.
Yeah. And the other guy was that Bruce Lipton I talked to you about yesterday.
Okay.
He was the one who looked at the cells in the 60s throughout. He was probably someone like you, a young lad,
Right.
intern. He's looking at it through a high-powered microscope, and he saw antennas on the cells.
Right.
I remember I told you that story yesterday. He was,
Yes.
what in the world is that for? And then, and he wasn't spiritual at all. He was a scientist, of course, extremely practical. Science is
Right.
the way. But in a matter of 5 minutes, he started questioning. You have a TV set, you have an antenna, you have a signal that goes to the TV, produces a picture, and then he thought, maybe it's the same thing. A cell receives information, from some quantum source. They receive that information, and life, exists. So in a period of five minutes, he totally changed his viewpoint. So now he's still a biologist, but also he travels the world and talks about, because a lot of people think, when you have a DNA sequence that's it. If you're prone to cancer and it's in your DNA sequence, you can't do anything about it. But he was saying it's the environment, external environment, and your internal environment that produces these diseases.
Well, yeah, the DNA is not destiny. It's a bunch of different plans.
Exactly.
That are used in different cases. In the case of grasshoppers, you make grasshoppers until all of a sudden you make locusts. It's the same DNA. The Russians have done a lot of good work. I think the tell here, the giveaway, is that Western scientists look at this DNA and say, well, there's 6% that's coding for stuff we know, and what's this 94%? That's got to be junk. But nature doesn't make junk, right?
No, it doesn't. No.
But we know nature is conservative. They wouldn't carry that stuff. So it's doing something they don't know. They just don't want to say, we don't know. They say, we're the experts. It's not doing anything. It's junk.
Now, scientists like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton says that so-called junk is multi-dimensional DNA.
Yeah.
We have the quantum field, and actually inside of our DNA, there's also a quantum DNA that exists inside of our DNA. So that's what a lot of scientists are.
I'm okay to deal with the quantum story as a story. I'm not going to deal with it as a reality, because I think the electric universe theory does a better explicative job. But please continue. I just want to say that,
well,
that we're still getting a lot of smoke blown.
I think that the quantum, my definition of quantum, and a lot of these scientists are saying, is that there's a field that lies beyond time and space, that lies in all dimension. Call it what you want, but there's some energy that exists at, beyond time and space, beyond this dimension. It exists everywhere.
Okay.
So that now imagine, so in creation, inside of our DNA, we right now, presently, that quantum field exists inside of us right now. It doesn't exist everywhere, right? So why? And the way I look at it, so if it's that supreme intelligence, why not put a stamp inside the human being, inside the DNA? Scientists call it junk, but maybe it's something, that 94. What is it? That's my general. That's why I exist right now. Is that I think, especially from all the scriptures I read, that we are made in the image, not a bodily image, but that quantum energy exists inside. And as you're talking about a spirit, that's basically, we're coming from that.
Okay.
So that's my soapbox.
All right. Well,
that's something to think about, huh? Because what's your personal thing?
I prefer to think less. I like the Taoist idea of reduce, simplify, and then simplify again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in so many ways, less is more for me. And people talk about having monkey mind. The thinking is just talking to myself. If I stop talking to myself and start listening, it gets quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a great little meditation I learned from the Eureka School. You ever crossed paths with Eureka?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Up there at Chasso. This was back in the 70s when I was looking on my journey, probably about 74. And a simple little meditative exercise, doing it aloud in a soft voice or a loud voice, and then doing it mentally, and then stopping and listening for the furthest sound out. And it just calms everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And that voice that wants to, at Experience Central, the voice that wants to tell us, this is what's going on, Tom. That's what's happening. Okay. It just cools out, and it gets fascinated, and it listens like at a good AA meeting, or when you're listening to a good friend, not to respond, but to take them in so that you can generate a deep response that you haven't concocted ahead of time. Mm-hmm. It's in the moment.
So maybe the common denominator is silence.
Yes.
That's what lies at the junk DNA, silence, beyond, our way of thinking,
But we're accessing the deep wisdom we have. That's what the Lomi was intended to do, to take you to the place beyond words, into the silence, and access the deep wisdom our bodies already contain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's non-rational, and it's not in our Western tradition.
Yeah, because I talk about the quantum, because for the past, I guess, almost going on 2 years, I meditate on my chakras every day.
Okay.
And what I do, basically, each chakra, basically, you enter the door of silence. So if you enter into a place, basically it's a world of just pure energy. Each one of those. So the more a person does it, the concentrate. The way I look at it, the more you pay attention to something, it starts paying attention to you, right? This is the kind of for me, that's kind of how life is. The more I pay attention, to meditation, it starts. I remember when I first started meditating, it would take me like an hour to get into that state. Then at a certain point, after years and years, that meditation started meditating upon me. So I close my eyes, and automatically you're there.
You've already built up the routine.
Yeah, and yet that's only one step. Each step you take, it's only one step. You can never clap your hands and say, oh boy, do I ever mastered this. You could meditate for 1,000,000,000 years and still it would be just one step.
It's all open-ended. Again, to me, my concerns are not the mystic that wants to reunite with the one great Godhead. And if he happens to find something practical along the way, so much the better. I'm a medicine man. I want to look for practical things that make life better day to day for people. And if I happen to get enlightened on the way, so much the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I've, taken, in the beginning, I meditated for myself, and now I meditate for the world.
Beautiful.
That's that. And I meditate so I can be, for myself, a representative of what a human being is. I care for one another. I love talking to people. I love laughing. I like joking. I
see you brighten up a lot of people's day.
Yeah, exactly. Especially during this precious, well, for me it's precious time, but it's kind of for many people. Oh gosh, I feel so sorry for what's going on. People, I just, I can't imagine, if you're young, you have a family, and I just can't.
It's okay. I've got a new mask design. It's almost patented. It's got a pouch inside so it'll fit on your tongue, and you can still move your mouth and your tongue, and we can at least mouth the words or something like that. and do something to make it's reductio ad absurdum, or reduce to the absurdity. Okay, let's because this stuff's not going to go away.
Yeah. No.
And it's like the common cold. They're both coronaviruses. If you've had a common cold and recovered and take a COVID test, it'll be positive. Why? You had a coronavirus, not COVID necessarily. So,
But I also kind of believe in the way I think I believe, say like concept of any other, say medicine, allopathic has a side effect, right? It's a push pull. You can't name one drug that doesn't have a side effect. But you have homeopathic medicine, which is diluted, 10,000 million, however parts, and so you have what's left is just an energy signature.
Yeah.
And depending upon a person's belief system, if you don't believe it's not going to heal, it won't do anything. If a person has a belief, there's a good possibility. I won't say 100% because nothing is 100% in nature, right? But
well, if they have a strong belief against it, yes, that's going to inhibit it.
Yeah.
Homeopathics work on animals. Do animals have beliefs? Open-ended question. You got Bach flower remedies, which are essentially homeopathic, derived from flowers.
Yeah.
And do the same thing. Deal with spiritual orientation and how we're feeling. Are we depressed? Are we angry?
Now, what I'm into, lately is discovering there's energy frequencies from our mind that can, so basically, there's that an energy frequency which can download a chemical. Our brain has the potential. There's infinite amount of chemicals that we never used before. Even scientists have discovered 5 years ago about DMT, how DMT exists in the pineal gland.
Right.
But people don't. How does that get released? So there's thousands, probably billions of chemicals that exist inside.
Well, we're evolving. You talk about the microanatomist who saw the cell with the antenna, and yet we look at the expression of life on the planet. There's a genotype, which is all the genes, and then there's the phenotype, which is the physical expression of that, which varies. So if we've got a signal up to what's going on in the atmosphere, what's the environment like, how do I adapt? That's my information for my adaptation, right? Not simply my power source.
Now, how would that be if we adapted, let's say through meditation, silence, call it whatever you want. There's a field that probably has all possibilities, all known chemicals and unknown chemicals that exist, and that the human being has a potential to tap into that. So instead of relying upon, on see, I've always been against Western medicine, except for if you break your arm, they do a good job if you have a heart attack. But for me, even as a kid, I believe in preventative medicine. I even asked I helped with a program for heart procedures at this is for hospitals where the person goes through like a transfer a heart, and it goes through all the procedures, and it said this happens, then they ask us questions, this is the next step, if this fails, do this. Anyway, make a long story short, I asked the CEO of the company for the software. He said, how come America doesn't believe in preventative medicine? And he said, oh no, we can't do that. Nobody wants to take responsibility for that.
Well, here you go. Little story. Ancient China, when a family would engage a physician, they would pay the physician a retainer monthly.
Right. Yeah.
Until a family member became sick, at which point they would stop paying the retainer. It was in the physician's financial interest, in their own interest, to come to the family, take care of the sick person, have the family be well again, and resume receiving payment. We don't have that in the modern structure. Yeah. The challenge is the interests are set against each other. So we know where that's going to work out. Human beings are not rational. We are emotional beings with a thin veneer of rationality. Thin, easily disrupted. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
So here we go. Yeah, I just boil it down to, basic messages are either fear or love, right?
Yeah.
Fear is the foundation for anger, depression, all that stuff. And love is the opposite. But what do we mean by love? That's a loaded word in the Western lexicon. I think that's why I like aloha. And if you look at the meaning of aloha, it explains you get a feeling of essentially love means simply to be happy with. I'm happy with you. I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with you with what you do. Now, sometimes I'm happy with people when they're way over there. But I'm not happy with them when they're right here. That's my boundary stuff going on. Because they're not going to conduct themselves in a way that's going to be harmonious with you. But I don't care what they do over there. That's their own business. And maybe they're doing better than I am. I don't know. I'm not. It's above my pay grade to judge.
Yeah.
So
for me, that's why, for me personally, love exists behind my breath. That's why I try to, every single moment, I focus my mind upon my breath. In the beginning, it was a struggle, but now it's like repetition, day in, day out. I've even tried to do it in my sleep. So you connect to the silence, and in the silence is that, whatever you want to call it, that field of love, compassion, patience, tolerance. So we can bring those qualities into this world.
Good.
That's my personal.
That's beautiful, man.
Everyone has a different way, so but.
Well, we all see the world a bit differently and through different lenses.
Yeah.
Particularly. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm just pontificating again.
Okay. One thing that I see, because I ask, I tell a lot of my friends in my poems, probably one every five, I tell people to focus on their breath, just for 10 seconds, and focus on what is behind your breath, what is keeping you alive. I said, the mystics and saints have been talking about that literally for thousands of years. There's power that is keeping you alive, and it's super simple. It's probably one of the most simplest things. We're breathing. whether we like it or not. You know, if we don't like it, we're going to be dead pretty soon in a matter of moments. So, so you're talking about simplicity. I think that's one of the most simplest things that there is for humanity, is to focus behind your breath.
Well, certainly a culture that promotes self-control, self-awareness, harmony, you know, good manners and grace, all the things that lubricate our social interactions.
Yeah, yeah.
And make life gracious, and that recognize that our mediator is really our goodwill, not a dollar bill.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's like, imagine you go to the checkout at the grocery store and you have a kind word for the person doing that job. Maybe you notice something about them that they're wearing and you make a positive comment on it, you know, and all of a sudden you let them know that you can see them as a person, not simply somebody filling the uniform in front of you and acting a role. Yeah. And now you've made a personal connection, and you've offered a spark. That's what I call a spark. And watch those people, watch them light up, watch their faces change, feel their energy change. You know, man, what a wonderful thing to do for each other. And it's just simple and easy, you know, and it's a percentage thing. I'm not always on my game, and I like everybody. I'm sure I'm talking a much better game than I play, but those are the ideals I aspire to. And I realize ideals are impossible. They're not reachable. They're directions. They're not destinations.
Yeah, exactly. And we could always, just like the Dalai Lama says every night, you know, he looks at what his actions in the day, and he says, how can I improve? Just even the slightest, just one thing. How can I improve? So. Well,
I like that, and moreover, I'd like to focus on our successes. So I'd say, what did I do that was and let that roll forward. Self-criticism at some point is necessary, but to encourage, we talk about the silence in Hawaiian medicine, understanding that when we talk about what Western medicine calls the subconscious is a great awareness that's entirely precise, that your subconscious, your ku has been sometimes called in Hawaiian, measures things accurately, knows all this stuff, and takes stuff literally. Okay? So when we say stuff, we're programming ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
Because words are spells. Okay? And we human beings go in and out of trance all day, and most of the time when we're active, we're not really conscious. We're walking around in post-hypnotic trance. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah. I mean, science say 95% of our actions is from the subconscious. Only 5% is the conscious.
Right. So what we're doing is, and I hear you talking about, we're training our subconscious like we would train a dog, with love, affection, persistence, so that, and we can't beat it into submission. It doesn't work. And to me, what shows where I come up is when something happens that throws me into reaction, and I see what my reaction is.
Yeah.
You know, like one time I was coming out of, I needed a picture for my Canadian residency permit. So I go to it's wintertime, I go to the photo shop. She gives me the photo, I walk out the door. She's shoveled a small path out to the sidewalk, which is then shoveled, but there's snow either side. And I want to go across the street and over, so I take the shortcut and I step on the snow. Wrong thing to do. My foot gives way immediately. I've got the pictures in my right hand. I start falling forward, and I find myself laughing. I'm laughing, and it's all like, okay. And I go down, and I just catch myself in my forearm, and I roll to my shoulder, and I roll to my back, and I get back up, and I dust the snow off, and I'm laughing. And this cop comes by. I said, "I saw you fall. You okay, man?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I said, "Wow, I never saw someone do that so graciously." I said, you know, it was just because I moved with it.
Yeah.
Another time, Alani and I would oftentimes go into Ottawa to chase students to teach. That's another story. We would come back at night, drive cross country to get back here rather than take the freeway. It's a nicer drive. And we'd stop and pick up a Starbucks cold coffee, the mocha. Okay, you know, like
Yeah.
loosen myself for the drive back on, whatever. And normally I put it down inside the car, the top's still on it. There's some of the chocolate sauce on the bottom. You got to shake it up to put it back into solution. Only this time I've taken the top off, and Lonnie picks it up and she starts shaking it. Oh, coffee everywhere.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh.
But what's wonderful is that I'm realizing, like, oh, you know, I'm expressing my surprise, but I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not swearing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my my tell. You know, it's like, okay, what happens when I'm not composing words from a calm, centered place and talking a good story? What happens when I'm blah, right? And that tells us where we are. It tells me where I am, and I think it might work for other people too. So I share that as like anecdote, personal truth. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, you know, just have a good laugh and let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's one thing. I remember a couple of days ago, I put that Facebook post, and you responded, which I love. Is that we are the ones who choose ourselves of what way we want to go. And,
yeah.
And so that's kind of how I'm trying
and
to.
that's a challenge because it's so human to attach to external circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Instead of claiming that for my own and that's my decision.
Yeah.
But it does takes me out of the victim triangle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it gives me, it sees myself as capable, potent, and an agent in my own right, not being acted upon, but a unique individual.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how long we've been talking here.
Oh, I'm sure we've been a couple hours or so.
Couple hours.
Oh, is it? I got about 4:45.
Almost 2 hours. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah, this is great. You know, to be honest, I really don't have too many people. I have maybe 5 friends I can have conversations like this. So
I am the same, Richard. I have a lot of superficial friends. You know, there's some guys want to talk sports, and so we talk sports, and some guys want to talk politics, and so we talk politics. And those who want to talk philosophy and metaphysics are few and far between.
Yeah.
and I cherish those. But yeah, and then there are guys who want to talk science stuff, and I want to do that too. I'm not in detail, but I'm in overview.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. So thank you very much. I return the compliment.
Yes. That was great. Yeah. Oh, we should do this more often. Just call, each other and talk things over. Yeah.
We'll do that. You know, at least once a month. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds real good. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from my time as a salesman, I know if we don't make an agreement now, we likely won't ever do that.
Yeah.
So the iron is hot. Time to strike. What do we got? Today is, this is mid-July, right?
Yeah, so maybe we can do it mid-August.
Let's go somewhere mid-August, and say after the 15th. 14th is Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday. How about Monday the 17th?
Okay.
Mondays work for you?
Yep, yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
You're retired now, aren't you?
I am retired, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hold on, I gotta grab the phone. Man, when I was a kid growing up, the thing this size that was most important was transistor radio, only it was much thicker.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Remember that? You get AM, then you get AM and FM, and now. Okay, so I'm going to enter this into the calendar.
You could do this through a Zoom. Basically, if you go into do a Zoom, schedule a meeting, and then you can actually schedule a meeting and go directly into Google Calendar and we'll post. You use Google Calendar? What do you
No,
use? Oh, you don't?
no,
Okay.
no. I'm trailing edge technology. I'm old school. You can text from my cell phone, but I haven't got the voicemail working,
Oh,
and
okay.
I can be difficult to reach, and that's okay. Then, so I'm kind of wacky that way.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hold on. All right.
Give my love and regards to your lovely wife, Alani.
I certainly will. I'm going to sneak a piece of paper. This is the new paperless office. You see, we're just using scraps of paper now instead of real paper. How we can get by. So 17 August, that's Monday.
Okay.
What's a good time for you? Same time afternoon?
Yeah, same time. Yeah, this is perfect. Yeah.
3 p.m. my time, that's 2 p.m. you. No, you're California. You are 12. You're
No,
new.
I'm in Kansas.
You're in Kansas.
Yeah, I'm just 1 hour different from you.
In Kansas?
Yeah.
I thought you said you were in.
I'm in Overland Park. We've been here for about 10 years. You know, I grew up in California.
Oh, you grew up in Newport Beach.
Yeah, I grew up.
Okay, I thought you were there now.
No.
You're,
Yeah.
Oh, you're in Kansas.
In Kansas, yeah.
All right. How's the tornadoes?
You know, we so far we never seen one here.
You haven't.
Nope. Now outside, you know, there's in the plains that they get a lot of tornadoes, but we're not in Tornado Alley. So
Good for you.
we've had warnings, mind you. We're going to the basement a couple of times.
Yeah, we don't get stuff here in Eastern Ontario. I'm about due north of Syracuse, New York.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I'm about the same, about the 45th parallel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so you're in Kansas, you're further south. Kansas, you're south of Nebraska, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And Iowa. Yeah, we're right.
So Nebraska and Iowa on the northern border.
Yep. Yeah.
What do you got on your eastern border?
Eastern, next to us is Colorado.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's western is Colorado, and eastern is we have Missouri, and next to Missouri is Arkansas, and then next
Southern border, Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I can remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a hot summer up here. The jet streams are further or to the west of us, so we're getting that stuff coming up out of the southeast and Caribbean and all
wow.
the big high pressure dome.
Because usually isn't your summers quite mild or milder, right?
Well, they have been. Things have been changing. I don't know if you ever looked up some of the work of Dr. Valentina Zarkova. She's Russian at the University of, I think it's Manchester in England. And her analysis is mathematical of the solar cycles. And everything looks to be that because we're seeing decreased solar output,
right, yeah.
The energy's out, all the planets are connected in a vast electrical circuit all the way out to Pluto. Even institutional scientists talk about magnetic ropes that they see connecting directly, like to Jupiter and Earth and all that stuff. So fascinating how to see how science begins to approximate metaphysics, right?
Yeah.
So there's, something going on here. That's great. I like that. Anyway, that whole electric circuit is overcharged right now. It's charging from the sun, and all of a sudden this is decreasing the output. All the stuff downstream is still overcharged. That's why we're seeing a lot of strange weather, anomalous weather. And the jet streams are now, instead of kind of smoothly moving in a narrow band along the planet, they're swinging wildly.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow.
Now, if you look at the bands of wind on the planet, this is the giveaway, because you see counter-rotating flows.
Mm-hmm. Is that why we got the sand from the Sahara due to that?
Pardon? Yeah, I saw that the sand came over.
Yeah.
But you got to remember also, that sand is silicon dioxide, right? That same as, fuse it all together, it's quartz.
Yeah.
Yes, but mostly silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide has it's a dipole. It has an electric moment, right? It's not a neutral chemical composition.
Mm-hmm.
And the same force that holds the dipole of hydrogen, of oxygen dihydride or dihydrogen monoxide up in the air holds the sand up in the air too, and that's electricity.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Wow.
It only takes apparently 1% ionization of the atmosphere for that to act as a plasma.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Clouds are plasma formations, yes. So if you think from the metaphysical standpoint, then we see like air and fire have a lot in common and almost the same, almost with water, since we look at air as a compressible fluid. Water is an incompressible fluid.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where you're starting getting like, when you start doing the subdivisions of the four elements, and you're doing earth, water, air, fire, all that stuff. Speaking of which, when I stand on the elemental platform, if I take a moment and I think of all my petals, bring them up to the head, that's helpful. Give it a shot, see what it does for you. Yeah. So I'm just real thrilled to see the science starting to make sense that the electric universe does, because it's not only descriptive in a clear way, it also has predictive value showing up. And if you watch the news feeds come by, and there's something about space every now and again, and all the institutional scientists are always surprised, right? They're surprised, oh, something happened, we didn't know, wow, look at that, and they think that comets are dirty snowballs. Well, come on, man. That ice will sublimate into gas or ionization or plasma form out there. It's not. We have too many fairy tales that defy the objective evidence in front of us. My soapbox for the day. Anyway, God, love, and rock and roll. This is
strawberry fields forever.
Well, I guess here's my sign off. I'm reminded of the Christian theologian whose name escapes me, and the guy said, "Consider everything and rejoice."
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Consider the fullness of it, from to everything, turn, and rejoice, because it takes everything to do it.
Yeah, I like that one.
I did too. The short, pithy ones that you can kind of like chew on. Oh, maybe it doesn't work here. Oh, maybe it does. And it's much easier than a whole bunch of words. Like you go, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't. And I'm like, you ever come across Paulo Freire and the pedagogy of the oppressed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he gained his meta insights, his metacognitions, teaching the poor in Brazil to read and write, to become literate. He's watching what happens, and these people, it's just not more information for them. They literally change when you learn. They get a step up. And he says true learning literally changes us, and there's an exchange between what we learn in ourselves. It's not just that we sit in our similar model and pick up more information to put in whatever stacks that fit our pre-existing concepts. No, we enlarge. And we gain a larger understanding, probably a superset if we're going to use mathematic terms. But the true learning changes us, right? I'm an old dog. I'm 71 years old, man. I want to learn new things because if I don't, I get stale.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
I get stuck. So my latest new stuff I can share with you, I've learned from my grandson, and that is, he doesn't say yes or no. He says yes, please, and no, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I like it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm flexible.
Really.
And this is stuff I seek out because you notice, like on Facebook, my avatar is an otter.
Oh yes, yeah. I like that.
My avatar, and the reason behind that is otters are playful. They don't like to do the same thing, same way twice. And I have a depressive aspect to my expression here, and so I need to find the fun. I need to find the play, and that's why I've got the otter to remind me to do that.
Yeah. So that's your archetype symbol, right?
Well, it's my antidote symbol.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Not my archetype.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's my antidote.
Antidote symbol. Yeah.
No.
I gotta remember that one. Yeah. Antidote symbol. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your happy medicine.
Just new terms that will make sense to people. I like to use things that are understandable, but in a different context than we're used to seeing them. Because people are always preoccupied. Even if you're sitting there staring at a wall, they're preoccupied. Something's going on. Even if you're meditating, you're preoccupied. So we have to break preoccupation. When I was in Japan walking around, what was interesting was that in Japan you don't just walk up to someone and say, "Hey, Mac, what time it is? What time is it?" If you give me the time, you say,
Hold on for a second. Let me disconnect this. Okay.
All right, we'll wrap it up soon. But anyway.
Oh, that's my, I have my speaker on. It goes to my phone.
That's okay. Anyway, as I was getting, you have to, the polite way to engage is to say, "May I ask you a question, please?" And they have the right to refuse. And if they say yes, then you go ahead and ask your question. But you don't just launch into a question.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah. That's polite.
Right. It's gracious. It's not, it's loving.
Yeah.
It's like if my wife is doing something and I'll walk in, sometimes she's busy reading, I'll stand there and I put my finger up. This is a signal I learned from child raising. This is to say, when you have a moment, I'd like to talk. I'm not going, "Hey, I want to talk to you." I'm just letting you know I'm here. And when you find a good stopping point, let's do it.
Oh.
All good things. I didn't learn it in my family of origin. I learned how to eat so fast I got to university and my girlfriend didn't want to eat with me. Because I bolted my food down, and my wife here was still seeing me doing the same stuff many, many years later, and going out to dinner one time, being aghast at my table manners. I'm sure they were barbaric. But when you got 5 kids and there's no leftovers, you eat fast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Yeah, I ate fast. And here I am today, 21 with 50 years of experience, and let's go. Well, my friend, I'm going to bring it to an end here. We're set for 17 August, Monday at 3 p.m. on Zoom. And in the meantime, have a fabulous day. Hope you find some unusual fun. And serendipity, which is the fun you find when you're looking for something else and you didn't expect you'd come across it. However, you've got the sense to recognize it and don't just go, "This is not what I'm looking for."
All right. Oh, aloha, and say hi to Alani, and this is great. Yeah, I loved it.
And I'm happy to talk more about the Lomi Lomi. That kind of went off the way, but suffice it to say, it was like when I was making my living as a Lomi practitioner, that was the most authentic and spiritual way of doing it. Otherwise, for academic activities, working as a stagehand is the most authentic.
Yeah.
Because it's full of people who are, some of them are characters, some of them have character, and you come, you do a job, and everything comes in the door, and at the end of the night, it goes out the door, and you're done.
Right.
My brother, thank you for the
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. And aloha. Yeah.
Aloha.
Bye.